All right, welcome. Today we are jumping into something that's absolutely critical, but often flies under the radar: research ethics. Think of it as the rule book that keeps science, well, scientific. But what happens when those rules get broken? Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to ask, is science in a bit of a crisis? Then we'll dig into the ethical rules designed to prevent that. After that, we'll jump into the modern-day battlegrounds where this fight is happening right now. And finally, we'll meet the unsung heroes who are guarding the truth. So, we're not going to start with some dusty old rulebook. Nope, we're jumping right into a real-world crisis, one that shook the scientific community to its core, and it happened right when we needed to trust science the most. Just think about it for a second. What if, during a global pandemic, you couldn't actually trust the medical studies coming out? It's a terrifying thought, right? Well, this isn't just a hypothetical. Back in 2020, this became very, very real. And this is what happened. We're talking about the Surge Sphere scandal. Two of the most respected medical journals on the planet, The Lancet and the New England Journal of Medicine, had to retract these massive COVID-19 studies. Why? Because the data was completely made up. It was a perfect storm showing how bad research can lead to, frankly, catastrophic public health decisions. What happened with Surgisphere really put a spotlight on what you might call the cardinal sins of research misconduct. So let's break them down. What are these fundamental no-nos that can threaten the entire scientific project? Okay, first up is fabrication. This is the most shameless one, really. It's just making stuff up. Inventing data, faking results, and then writing it all up as if it were real. It's science fiction, but pretending to be science fact.
Next, you've got its sneaky cousin, falsification. Now, this isn't about making things up from scratch. This is about manipulating what's already there. You know, maybe you conveniently delete the data points that don't fit your theory, or you tweak an image to make it look a little more perfect. It's not an outright lie, but it's deliberately misleading.
And number 3, a classic: plagiarism. This is just plain old intellectual property theft. You're taking someone else's ideas, their words, their results, and you're passing it all off as your own without giving them any credit. It completely poisons the well of scientific discovery.
Unless you think this is just a rare problem, look at this number. Over 40,000 papers have been retracted, according to the watchdog group Retraction Watch. And that number is still climbing. This isn't just a few bad apples. It's a systemic issue we have to take seriously.
Okay, so with all that as a backdrop, how do we even begin to fight against this stuff? Well, thankfully, there's a whole framework, an ethical bedrock, that was built to prevent these kinds of disasters and to give researchers a clear set of rules to play by. And you know, these rules didn't just appear out of thin air. They were forged in response to some of history's darkest moments. You've got the Nuremberg Code, which came directly out of the horrific experiments in Nazi Germany. Then the Declaration of Helsinki, governing international ethics. And in the US, the Belmont Report, created after some deeply unethical studies were exposed. These documents form the very foundation of what we expect from researchers today.
And what came out of those landmark documents is a kind of ethical compass for all research. You've got principles like respect for persons. That's where we get the idea of informed consent. Beneficence, a fancy word for a simple idea: do more good than harm. And justice, making sure the benefits and burdens of research are shared fairly. These aren't just suggestions, they're the absolute core of ethical science.
All right, so we have these timeless principles. But here's where it gets really interesting. Today, those same principles are being put to the test on brand new, super complex battlegrounds. The fight for integrity is happening in places we couldn't have imagined just a few decades ago.
Let's take open access. The idea behind it is fantastic. Truly ethical. Make publicly funded research free for everyone to read. But every hero has a villain, right? This amazing movement accidentally created a dark twin: predatory publishing. These are basically scam journals. They'll take your money, publish your paper with zero quality control, and in the process, they just pollute the world with junk science.
And what about peer review? I mean, that's supposed to be the gold standard, our main quality control system, but it's under enormous strain. You see everything from reviewer bias to serious conflicts of interest to this weird pressure to only publish positive results. It gets wild. There have been cases of authors creating fake online identities just to review their own papers. And now with AI, there are all new questions about confidentiality.
And then there's a question that sounds simple, but is actually a huge ethical can of worms. Who gets to be an author? I mean, who gets the credit?
This is a massive source of conflict. And now, with AI in the mix, journals have literally had to make rules saying, no, ChatGPT cannot be an author, because an AI can't take responsibility for the work. So the key principle here is that authorship has to be earned. You have to have made a real contribution. This helps fight against two really common unethical practices. First is ghost authorship, where someone who did a lot of the work is left off the list, usually to hide a conflict of interest. And then there's gift authorship, where someone, often a big-shot professor, is added to the list as a favor, even though they barely touched the project.
Okay, so we've got fake data, fake journals, fake authors. It's a lot. It raises a big question. Who is actually out there on the front lines, helping researchers navigate this minefield and do the right thing?
And the answer might surprise you. Librarians and information professionals. These are the unsung heroes, the real guardians of the record. They're the ones teaching academic integrity, helping researchers spot those predatory journals we talked about, making sure retracted papers are flagged in databases. They are active partners, absolutely essential to the whole process.
And they also promote really practical tools to help fight back. One of the best is this initiative called Think, Check, Submit. It's so simple but so powerful. It's basically a checklist that encourages researchers to just pause. Think, is this journal right for me? Check, is it legitimate? And only then, when you're confident, do you submit. It's a great defense against getting scammed.
And this quote really says it all, doesn't it? Library and information professionals occupy a central position as facilitators of ethical research, custodians of scholarly record integrity, and advocates for open and equitable knowledge systems. I mean, wow, they're not just on the sidelines, they are central to this whole enterprise, ensuring the integrity of the knowledge that we all depend on for literally everything.
Which brings us to our final and maybe most important question. In this age of AI, deepfakes, and rampant misinformation, who are you going to trust to guard the truth? Because this fight for integrity, it isn't just some abstract academic debate. It's about making sure that the very foundation of knowledge that we build our world on is solid and that it's actually worthy of our trust.